There is a place deep inside where you are never alone, and you found it here in the Psychic Zone. And I'm with Todd Segal, psychic detective and medium. Okay. And Todd, this has been a crazy 2020, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think I want to go back to 2019. I want a refund for 2020.
Yes, I think there's a long line for that, I've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're an interesting role model in the sense that people will be looking for strength.
The whole nation right now is crippled beyond fear, and I think it's maybe a good time to at least give my opinion. And it's almost like a bad nightmare that you keep waiting for this to go away, and you wake up every morning with a news report and more people have this flu and this and that. But you and I were talking, and we were talking behind closed doors, so to speak. So I have to be very careful what I say to the general public about my theories. And these are just theories. I don't have evidence about what's going on with this pandemic. And one of the points that Chris and I were talking about was that the new warfare, we had the tech war of the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the computer viruses, the espionage on the internet, okay, and all those things, and bringing down the system. About 2000, everybody thought the computers were going to crash. And then after that became a very lethal sort of technology war on scams and this kind of thing. But I've known for a long time, and this has been proven, that the war of the new century is going to be viral warfare. And I'm sorry, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but we know it's true. We know that many years ago they discovered anthrax still in laboratories in other countries. Why we keep anthrax? That was a lethal killer in the early part of the 20th century. And the, I believe 1800s, I could be off about that, but we know, and we're just thinking out of the box here a little bit, but the new war, and actually I heard our president speak last night, he is right, we're at war with a virus that's completely shutting down our society. And I go back to some of the movies, 1984, and so, some of the old, more science fiction classics that were talking about these kind of things with genetics and viruses and the abuse of power in our governments. And I promised I wouldn't get political on here, but we're in a real political war dealing with a virus, and it is absolutely absurd. And my suggestion for people right now is to put your opinions down and start defending your rights as free people, because your freedom will go away very quickly if you side with one group or another. But I can tell you, if just as a psychic and the work that I do, is that I feel that this virus was manufactured. It did not come from animals. I do believe it's very directed at tweaking our internal system, as far as actually not just lungs, but I believe the liver and the heart. Okay, so I believe that it has some other implications about it that act as almost a immune system killer.
As AIDS was, in a sense, taking it up a notch to make it more aggressive, almost like high potency AIDS.
Yes.
And that's interesting because right now the thing that they say could possibly help fight this infection was an AIDS drug.
I'm very excited about that. I am actually very excited. They're doing the trial tomorrow. They're going to be using test subjects, live people. They have found in the lab that the HIV drug actually kills the cells of this virus. And I'm actually very excited that we are going that route. We need to save lives. And to make a vaccine would be very difficult. It would take, you know what, honestly, it'd probably take years to do. I don't know if they'd get it right the first time. But I do think at some time when this is over, and I believe it will be over, not long from now, actually, because I think what's going to start happening is people are going to get better, okay? And then there might be some more cases coming through, but there's going to be more people getting better than there are people who are going to get infected. The cities are a mess right now because it's so hard to keep people apart, and it's so hard to shut down their system. And we're going to, I think the basic steps that our country is doing are the right ones, but we also have to think that we have to think long term. We need to go after the source of how this all started, because I can tell you that the timing was not coincidental. I feel that there's people behind this, and I feel that it was made for a purpose. This is just, of course, the Spanish flu of 1918, those kind of things are the same caliber, but they're not exactly the same. And we haven't had enough time to research this virus. That's the truth from doctors. We have not had enough time. We're just treating cases. We haven't had any time to research it.
And if there's anything that would help ease this of some sort in patients, why not be excited about that? Why not push that further, as Trump seems to be doing? It seems other people might be even trying to block that or creating new intensified restrictions over it. I mean,
anybody that blocks that sort of thing, who also blocks the help to our citizens whose businesses, people can't survive a week without pay. Okay, they can't survive a day without pay.
Yeah.
If we're not going to help them, then I would start pointing fingers at why.
Sure.
That's just unconscionable. One of the things that people have to realize is that when these other countries like Europe started losing these people, it's not just the loss of life that is the hard part. It's the families of that loss of life and how they're going to rebound from this. They might have actually, some of them might have been supported by an older uncle or a father or somebody, and they could lose everything.
I was suggesting this also, as we're saying that, okay, there is someone behind this. Let's say that there's a nefarious group that's actually planted this, put it in different countries, stronger viruses. Well, just imagine how much anger that there is out there, because there is an anger issue involved in this too, towards something, an agenda, a politician, an outcome. Who most benefits from this pandemonium? Who most benefits are lawmakers, people who are pushing laws during fear. So maybe broaden our minds and just be an American or a global citizen and forget left, right, middle, and just see what's going on, and then might shock you what your insights might be.
Well, that's the problem here, is that every time you come out with a theory, somebody will blame a political leader, okay? Grow up, people. First of all, there are people, is somebody angry enough to declare a catastrophic viral warfare on the people? Yes, I've seen it. I can read people. These are people with endless resources, people who it's not even about a political system. It's more about power. It's about them being right, because there's some people that you cannot talk to. They need to prove a point, and if they've been put into the hole by somebody else, they'll do whatever it takes to make that person pay for what they did. And that, is just the tip of the iceberg. I believe in this whole thing, but viral warfare, this has been talked about ever since the 1950s, I believe. This goes back a long time.
Yeah, A-bomb, the H-bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when in 97, when we're going in to take Saddam Hussein, there's biowarfare, or germ warfare that they're going to use on our troops.
They
found out what that really was. It was actually the depleted uranium from our own weapons. That was actually infecting our own troops.
Mm-hmm. I will give one future bit of advice too, in relation, because somebody asked me recently, they said, what do you feel will be the next big hurdle that we have to get through? And I felt somewhere around 2024, I had a very bad feeling about war. And obviously we've had terrible tensions with Iran. And that scares me. There's one thing you have to know about some of these Middle Eastern countries that people can't imagine. They have very sophisticated doctors and scientists. Mm-hmm. Okay, we worry about the nuclear weapons. That's the little stuff. The nuclear weapons they aren't even concerned about anymore. They have the technology. They have people who have studied over here at some of our universities, taking the knowledge back with them to use it for the wrong purpose.
Yes.
So let that set in a little bit. That's what's to come in the future. I don't think this virus is a fluke. I think it happened with a purpose.
And so I'm going to just say you're a conspiracy theorist. How do you even think of all this? How would well, do your own research. Not you, Todd, necessarily. It looks like you've done research. But anyone out there who's questions, do the research. And not through one article. Do other research. Hear both sides of the view. And maybe somewhere in between there could be a light to the truth,
I'm just taking it from a totally... of course, I've done some studying on it. I'm taking it from the standpoint of doing a case in psychic detective work. What do I do when I'm finding a missing dog, or if I'm finding a missing person? I empty my mind. My mind becomes blank within a second, and I'm just doing the work. It's coming out, and obviously, like everybody else, our lives are turned upside down since we heard about the virus, and schools are shut down and stores are shut down, and the whole world's in chaos right now. So I haven't had time to really assimilate what has been going on. But in the last day or so, I spent some very quiet time, and the truth revealed to me is scarier than anything you can imagine. And, I don't want people to come out saying, oh, well, that guy's crazy. He's a total nutbag. But I did a poll on my Facebook page. There was probably over 100 comments on there. And I just asked people very plainly, does something feel like it's not right in the timing about this virus? Is there something behind this? Do you feel it's more than just coincidental? And most people, in fact, with some of my clients that I've spoken to on the phone the last day or two, agree. And I didn't even have to convince them. Everybody said, yes, there is something going on here besides just a virus that showed up.
Yeah, that's very. And can you go through any of the answers besides that?
I love some of the input my clients give me, and it actually kind of wakes me up a little because other people are intuitive as well, but some of the theories have been very interesting. A lot of them don't put blame on a certain country, kind of the way I've been thinking. They don't. We're having we're having this terrible argument between, oh well, it came from China, and then stop the stupidity, people.
It's here.
A whole government is not behind this virus. This is somebody who has the resources to do it, somebody who knows people in technology, labs, medical, whatever. So let's not blame countries about it. And I think that's the scary part, is that somebody has the capability on a smaller scale to develop these type of things. It's not too hard. It really isn't. You just need the knowledge.
It would be interesting to do a little experiment, and we could do it now or we could do it another time, but to take us with you in a journey of how you would go about sitting and then answering a question. People could sit with you and actually maybe find their own answers. Mm-hmm. That's something we could do now. Think like, let's just say, like, just quiet your mind and think, what kind of question do you ask, and then just listen for an answer.
Well, there's that, but it's almost like, since I do some remote viewing, I will get imagery in my mind. So if you ask me a question, first I'm going to start getting the imagery in my mind. It's not like a voice comes down and says, this is your answer. But I do have some visuals behind it.
So remote viewing, where did that take you during this sit down that you took?
As far as the pandemic and all that?
Yeah.
It started to take me to people, people with power. It started to take me to events that have been going on for the past few months, and events that are going to be happening in the future. So I'm going between time and I'm going between people, and I don't,
Yeah, no naming of the people. So it's kind of like linking situations, images that come, and kind of it starts, like you say, opening up a map or like a field that's connected. That's
once I get one. So if I'm working on a case, a lot of times the new evidence comes forth from the case. That gives me more information in my mind of where I'm going. It might give me a flash. It could give me a visual. It's not fishing for information. What it's doing is, as a psychic detective, you need some information to get more information, And so that's what's happened in the last couple days as far as this pandemic.
Wow.
Is, maybe I hear something, maybe I see something on TV, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, because in normal life, I mean, people might ask me, well, why didn't this guy see this pandemic if he's psychic? I mean, he should have saw it coming a long time ago. Well, you know what? I'm not concentrating on it. I go to the grocery store. I'm not sitting there reading the person that at the checkout, unless I want to, and then I focus on it. So I'm usually
you give yourself a chance to actually dare to do this. I mean, that's a lot of effort, and like you say, there's a frightening realization that came about from it.
And I've been busy. I've had a couple of missing dogs that I've been working on. I've been doing readings during the day. I haven't had much time. I've also been painting my kitchen. So during this time, I'm trying to set up projects at home, and then I go to my appointments. So I haven't had much time to really soak in all that's going on, plus having to make sure my daughter's okay and to make sure my horses and animals are good. I needed some space to kind of let it all sink in. And I think one thing that I feel pretty confident about is that I feel the pandemic lifting. I can't tell you when, but I feel pretty soon that there should be some numbers to indicate that who's been infected, and that then people start leaving hospitals and start getting better. But I think the shutdown, I was asked about that too, how long we're going to be shut down. It's very hard to predict, but I think that the way they're going to do it is they're going to start lifting some restrictions, in the near future, and a little bit at a time. The one thing, and you and I were talking about this before, that I'm a little bit worried about, the motivation behind it, is that some of the schools have been shut down for the year now. We're only in March right now. We have April, May, June before the year's over. So I am a little suspicious why they're actually closing school systems completely down without saying, well, let's wait till mid-April to make the decision. I think that people are unnerved about the hysteria in the media, and I'm very mad and very angry at the media, because you're dealing with young people out there and people who are very frightened right now, and you got to be careful what you say, because you're doing more damage than good. Yes, we all have to be safe, but the way that they went about warning people and causing all this panic and fear, I think has done more destruction than anything. So when you start shutting this down without any knowledge that, this might actually improve, then there's a motivation behind that, and I don't like the feel of it. I'm not just being suspicious, but there's something else going on here.
Yeah, I'm sure if everyone sat and listened and asked themselves, is there something else behind this? I'm sure people could come up with a plenty of subconscious answers themselves. The one thing that I was really suspicious of, not like everyone talking in concert about the coronavirus, like it was a movie. Here it is there. It just popped up here. And this was, beginning in January. Mm-hmm. But the something about how it's we're using China as a role model. I mean, come on, we're America, freedom of the home of the free and brave. China is the exact opposite in a sense, right? It's communist dictatorship controls the crowds. Well, I've heard people like, yes, we got to do what China did. What, lock up people, barricade people indoors?
Well,
Sure.
In China's two sides there. You do have, yes, people. You have a lot of poverty. You have the general population. You have the middle of the road population. Not very many of them, but you do. But you have to also understand you have extremely rich people there too. Extremely rich. I mean, beyond
like billionaires.
Even more than that. I mean, you have so you have those endless resources. You know, we tend to look at it with our own biased eyes, but you know, the globalization of this world, the whole, if you really want to get into conspiracy theories, the New World Order is very real, set up by elites who are their own society, you know.
Yeah,
that's very real.
There's a few people who've studied it and actually, yeah, they're beyond the governments, they're beyond the religions, they're beyond the puppets that we see that are enacting the governments. And yeah, it must be frightening to people who are like reacting so strongly in our government and knowing possibly the real outcome of things. And maybe that's part of why they're acting so cautiously and so drastically. You know, lock down countries, don't leave your house. I mean, I have never, ever been in a situation like this.
Well, there's a lot of people, this seems to be the general opinion of clients and people on my Facebook page, that they're not very understanding of this pandemic in the sense that the standard flu kills hundreds of thousands of people a year. And we haven't hit that number yet with this pandemic. We've hit some, it seems like the percentage of it hitting hard, yes, is quite severe, but there's been some years, I believe in 2018, which was a very heavy flu year and really did a lot of damage and a lot of deaths. And so I suppose if, you know, a lot of people are questioning whether this is really a plague or whether they've made a flu into a reason to control our lives. That's another theory that's been going around.
And that would be almost frightening. And if I think that everyone, without saying someone's right or wrong, do the research, dig into some papers from the FCC or from, you know, anything that from all the different policies that we've had. Because I was talking with Todd earlier about, then this was off topic and off, you know, the grid here, but we were talking about how Democrats and Republicans they're not necessarily on different aisles going for the same agenda sometimes. So it's not like a plan that, it's just the Democrats doing that or just the Republicans. There's knowledge that policies that have been going from presidency to presidency to presidency, like a plan being enacted, setting up a law here for the next president to be able to use, or the next system. And this is something I just found out about what is it? The CDC? What's it called? The CDC?
CDC, Centers of Disease Control.
Had been given martial law, abilities in the last presidency.
Well, here's the thing: is they're a political entity as well. I mean, let's say that who pays your bills for you? You know, maybe the Centers for Disease Control. I have no knowledge about them, but this is a government agency, obviously. So I don't think, I think that we're all working in unison. I think all the hospitals, all the doctors, I think they're doing an incredible job. I'm really, my heart goes out to the nurses and the people who are on the ground really having to deal with this. I mean, they are the ones who need all of our support. But, I can't help to think, we've had these pandemics before. I can't help to think that how poorly prepared we are, and that it has to come down to martial law in order to contain all of us and to keep us from going places. But you know what? I see people, they're kind of acting like it's a holiday right now. They're off of work, kids are off of school. Hey, let's go have a vacation. They are not taking it serious enough, and they better, because they put us all at risk. And I think that I'm kind of a down-to-earth farmer type. I've had a farm, and isolation is like an everyday thing to me. It's, just staying put. That is an everyday thing, a reality for me. And I don't think our generation, our generation's kind of like, we can't sit still for a few minutes. I mean, that's our new generation. And
well, everyone should get one of those round balls that you could just roll around in, like the hamster ball or something, a virtual hamster ball where you could go running around different, cities or whatever.
A bubble. Yeah, we actually. Yeah, we could make a lot of money off of
virtual reality for everyone. They could just sit at home and go into your virtual reality world. You don't need the real world.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing I worry about so much are the generations to come and what they know and what we need to prepare them to know. And the politicians are absolutely ruining that for them, because
fear, are you saying?
Well, I know young people who immediately, when you talk about some of the topics we're talking about, they have an opinion about politics, and I'm like, really? I think that we need a universal truth of teaching our young ones about moral values, about real life situations. If you run a farm and you're teaching your kids on the farm, you teach them a lot of values, because not only are they responsible for your safety and theirs, but also for your animals and whatever else is on that farm. So I hate to say, but we need to go back to basics and stop with the generation that can't sit still a minute.
Yep. So, Todd, as we've been speaking over the last week, and you've actually delved a little bit more into it, and you seem to be a little more sure that there is something serious going on, but also sure that this will be finished. This will be finalized. Who knows what the outcome will be? But I mean, I'm not going to talk for you. But
it's hard to predict, because I see the way people behave and the way they're not taking precautions in this, and that could keep this thing going on for a long time. So I will tell you that it really depends on people right now. It's so crucial. I mean, even if we could get enough supplies and stay in for a couple weeks, not leave the house, not go in the car, not go somewhere else, you know what? This thing would be gone. It would be literally gone. But it's kind of like, I was seeing that spring break thing down in Florida going on, and the kids, we're all having parties. It's like, what are you people teaching your kids? They should not be out. In fact, I just saw a report that some of them were exposed to the virus.
Oh, really? Oh my God.
I don't know if that's the truth, but I saw something about that. You can't believe everything you see on the internet, and most of what the stuff I'm saying is all coming from me. It's not coming from the internet.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like the actual feelings you have and stuff is just the feeling you have, and it's not supposed to replace anything that is put into place by the government, any laws, any martial law that might occur. Todd is someone who has deep connections with abilities of insights. So he's sharing that with us, and take it with a grain of salt, but also listen to any regulations and policies or alerts that are given by the CDC.
Yeah, I think first is safety. So everybody be safe out there. Do not go out. Listen to the lawmakers. I heard our governor in Virginia speaking earlier, and I commend him for his calm demeanor, talking about the situation. Actually, he is a doctor by trade, but I think that they're trying to be safe without scaring people, and so listen to them and do not take chances. That's all I have to say about
Take chances. You can actually go ask that girl you've always wanted to go out now. I mean, what do you have to lose, right? But don't go out with her until 6 months from now. So you have plenty of times to get your body in shape to make sure you make that money. Wait.
Well, I was just thinking, I kind of wonder what the love psychics, the love psychic hotlines are doing now. And I'm wondering if they've changed their, their insight a little bit to the times, saying, well, you're going to meet this guy. He's tall, dark, and handsome. I see bright blue eyes. He's wearing a surgical mask. I see these strong hands, and even though they're covered by latex gloves, and you see each other down the paper towel aisle, and you rub elbows, and it's love at first sight. And so you know what? You got to make humor out of all of this, because if you don't, if you're I don't know, if you have anxiety at all, you go crazy.
Well, fear is crippling, and humor is something that makes you see life. They always called, life is like a theater, and we're all actors on the stage of life. Right now, we're just put on pause, and we're like back in the green room just to relax and waiting for our next dialogue. But it's a good time to be with family, do things you've always wanted to do that hadn't had time to do, and not give in to the fear, but be smart, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, the older generations know about this much more than we do. My grandparents back from way back, their generation had to go through depressions, and World War II was scary enough. And those days, and people building shelters in their backyards because of possible attacks, and some of these families, they hundreds of thousands were lost. I mean, just the bouncing back that people can do, to me, is just incredible. But we need a newfound strength for our society right now, a new vision, a new image. I think people need to really just say, enough with the politics, let's all do the right thing, and let's go back to a more decent moral society.
Yeah, humane.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that, and you were talking about yesterday, it's maybe a dystopia, more fatalistic generation that's being upbrung, and which means deterioration of morals. Where you watch, there's porn on TV or on the internet, and anyone could pretty much view it, and it's like the language is just off the chain, And it's like it's the respect for people is not there. And it's like, it seems like there's been a lot of attacks on our society as well as our health and as well as our morals.
Well, how do you know I was watching porn, man? Have you been bugging my room here or what?
Just saying that it seems that ever since, let's just say, I'll put the date 9/11, 2001, where we were, whatever people believe in that thing. I'm not going to go conspiracy on everyone, but we did give up a lot of our rights from safety. I mean, for safety. So we gave up privacy for safety. I'm just curious, what is this going to open up if we give more of our rights away? Which that's something to look into as well. And we should stand as Americans and not as you're this or you're that. No, you're here, you're an American, and I see you and I respect you as a person.
Here's my suggestion if I was talking to the president tomorrow, maybe after all this is blown over, I'd say, look, we really need a new task force, just like the CIA or whatever. We need a task force against viral warfare, because it will be back, and it could actually be worse next time. It could be equal to Ebola. Now, Ebola didn't spread quite in the same manner, but could somebody make it? Sure.
Yeah.
Think about that. We're actually, this could have been worse. If we want to look on the side of optimism, this could have been a lot worse than it is.
Mm-hmm. And that's where, depending on where this goes, we are remembered as people. Do not react according to everyone else's reaction. That's what I'm kind of saying earlier, that Todd takes us into that quiet moment where he could see things. If everyone could find that within themselves, then when you react with consciousness, you react a way that's helpful for others, instead reacting to everyone's fears and craziness in their panic-demic.
Well, let's I heard a doctor saying, there's a percentage of the deaths depending on your age. So I think it was 2 or 3%, relatively good health. All right. Could a virus be put out into, anthrax was terrible. Okay. That was a killer. But could they make a virus in the future now, based on the information they have, to maybe put the death toll at maybe 50 or 60%? Think about that.
Well,
that's
theories on that one too, and we don't want to go into my conspiracy theories because that would open up a can of worms. But I was thinking about those DNA tests that everyone's been taking around the world. I mean, that's now having our DNA, they could which ones are going to kill all the Scandinavian? Which ones, I don't know what could happen, but you're right. It could be a test run that we don't even know what's going on.
This is a test run. It hasn't even begun yet. That's my warning to people. How long? I have no idea. I really don't even want to think about it. But the viral, and who knows? I could be totally wrong about all of my theory on this, but I got to say, I also trust my intuition about it. And ever since the beginning, I knew that this was something created for a purpose. Mm-hmm. And it's so terrifying. And my heart goes out to anybody who lost somebody or who's sick with this. We need to help everybody, not just now, but afterwards too.
Well, what about the ones who say, you know what? They told me it was bat soup that got him sick, and that's what spread it. I've never believed that thing, but it's everyone can believe what they want. That's what we're saying.
Oh, okay.
But the bat soup, come on, you guys. This is.
I think if they did some research on this, I'm I'm just, giving my theory on
Yeah.
it. But I don't think it was created by animals.
No, it seems too powerful, and it seems to be aggressive.
I mean, are there pathogens, in the animal world? Yes, but there's something else here that was, I believe, mutated very similar to the Spanish flu of 1918. There's something very irregular about how I psychically focus into this virus, and it's not just it's very crippling. Actually, I think it was created to really to destroy the immune system.
Wow.
Even though the it's what they call a lung respiratory type illness, I still think that, look, the lungs have to do with our immune system. I think there's more to just being a respiratory illness with this thing because of the amount of deaths that we've had.
Which becomes complications of something else, usually.
Yeah, I mean, they can say, oh, these people had bad immune systems, or these people, were older and this and that. No. I think there's something else in it, but they haven't had time to research it, and maybe one day we'll know.
Well, Todd, I'm kind of afraid to launch this talk of ours because I'm sure you could get a lot of responses, and I don't know if you could be able to keep up with them all.
I hope it's not the men in black suits coming to the house.
They'll be the ones with the white suits and the flaps around the back, right?
No. I already I grew up with those guys, so no. I've been there, done that.
All right, Todd, and people know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah. Just go to my Facebook page, go to my website. It's toddsegalpsychic.com.
And this concludes another episode of The Psychic Zone. See you next time. And remember, you are never alone with us in the Psychic Zone.